if I had to categorize it, I would say I'm like 99% unconvinced. But say like if I watch the show and I hear when people call in and either yourself, Matt, or Jen, or whoever it is, kind of puts my doubt aside. But then when somebody else makes a point, I just sort of think to myself, or is there? So most of the time I'm unconvinced. But then when I hear somebody saying something, it's sort of like, it's like a switch, it goes on and off all the time. And I just struggle sometimes, like I don't know, what's going to happen or what's not going to happen, and just feel like, is there a better way to go about making myself feel a bit better about it? Because I'm always fearful of when I die, what's going to happen.
Yeah. Okay. So if I understand your dilemma, it's that you are kind of leaning toward non-belief, but there are things about theism that kind of keep pulling you back in.
Yeah. Well, it's more, maybe it's my own self that's doing it, but I've watched two debates what Matt did recently, and sometimes when I hear theists say, "Oh, it must be God because of this," it can be purely put down to coincidence. Like,
Right.
There was one instance where he needed money, and people were giving him money, and he was attributing that to God. And it's like, things happen all the time, and unless you've got some way to demonstrate it, then why would you believe that? And I also think you shouldn't believe something unless it can be shown, or there's more than enough.
Okay.
Palpable stuff. I don't know. I just always question myself because of what people say. Sometimes it's not necessarily what they show me; it's what they say.
Well, questioning yourself is not a bad thing.
Correct.
And this whole idea of deconversion, it's not something that you flip a switch and it's done. At least not for most people. It is a process, and so you're going to hear a lot of arguments, and some of them may seem convincing. And so the thing to do is just go and investigate them. If someone makes a claim, go and investigate it, see what evidence supports it and what doesn't, and then make a decision based on that.
I think there's 3 points in what you said, and I could be wrong. But one of them is that you, like every other person, is struggling with the notion of I don't know. It is incredibly frustrating to have something that, especially when other people think they do know, or claim that they know, and you are still in a position of uncertainty or you are unconvinced. That is incredibly annoying. And everybody struggles with that. But there's another thing here, which is you seem to be viewing this as if atheism is, I am now convinced that there is no God and I will never change my mind. And that's not remotely what any of us are advocating. The atheism in its minimal sense is, I am not convinced that there is a God. And at no point would either of us or anybody associated with the show suggest that you should never change your mind. The day a caller calls in with a valid and sound argument supported by evidence that would clearly be reasonable and convincing, I'm not an atheist anymore. I don't think it's likely to happen, but I'm not sitting here going, that can't happen, that'll never happen, I'll never change my mind. As a matter of fact, there was a comment left on one of my YouTube videos the other day where I was talking about Bible contradictions. Mm-hmm. And this person started off by calling me closed-minded and then finished their post by saying, if you think you found a contradiction, you're wrong because there are no contradictions. Now, that person literally demonstrated what it means to be closed-minded.
Yeah.
That it is impossible for you to find a contradiction. Well, it may be true that there aren't any contradictions, but what they demonstrated was closed-mindedness. The time to believe something is after there's a good reason. And so I understand fully, especially if, you probably haven't spent your life studying all of these things. And so somebody says something and, hey, the best explanation for that is God. And intuitively, especially if you've been raised around religion, it feels like it's an explanation. And the key for me to that is it is not. When we explain things, we give an account for why something is based on other things that we know and understand. So if you just appeal to a mystery, you're trying to solve a mystery by appealing to a bigger mystery. You haven't added anything to the equation that that provides any edification or any understanding. If you say, why is there something rather than nothing? And the answer is, because God did it. You haven't explained anything. You have dismissed the question. And the reason to do that is because the real answer to why, as far as I can tell, why is there something rather than nothing is, I don't know. Maybe it's the case that it couldn't have been any other way. Maybe I'm never going to have an explanation. But that is not very comforting. When somebody says God did it, not only does that seem like they've given an account for it, but they've added a bunch too, and yet they haven't explained a thing. So for me, the advice to you, keep thinking, keep having the conversations, keep watching debates, keep reading, keep engaging with people, and recognize that you are not under any obligation at any point forever for the rest of your life to say, boom, I've now made up my mind and this is what I believe and blah, blah, blah. Just recognize that occasionally you're going to have to be in a position which is very uncomfortable, which is, I don't know. Or I'm not convinced anybody else does either. There's nothing wrong with not being convinced that other people don't know.
Right. And this is interesting because this came up yesterday while we were at the Pride booth. Somebody came in, all very sure of himself, and said, so, you're atheist. So what do you think happened before the Big Bang, or what started the Big Bang? And we're like, we don't know. And you don't either. And so then that actually started a further conversation. And in the end, I think he walked away. He's still a theist, but he's got some room for doubt.
Yeah, I'm in England, so it's pretty comfortable to be a non-believer, but
right.
I used to be taken to church when I was a kid. I never understood why it was a man or a woman that was trying to tell me all this stuff. Like, if it's supposed to be so powerful, why is it just a guy who's telling me? Why is there nothing more?
Yeah.
Right.
Why does Paul get a Damascus Road experience with God and nobody else does? Right. Everybody else gets it second hand, third hand, fourth hand.
Yeah, why can't you just show up at the place and just stand there and then, the deity beams the knowledge in?
A long time.
What is God afraid of?
I don't know.
I mean, I've been hosting this show for 14 years. You've been on for what, 9, 10?
10. Yeah.
We have an audience. There are millions of people who've watched clips from the show or full episodes, everything else. It's not the biggest audience ever. I mean, he could go like on America's Got Talent or something if he wanted to and say, hey, I'm God, here I am. Maybe get a bigger audience. But what could possibly be more beneficial than coming on to an atheist TV show,
right,
instantly converting the hosts and the crew, having us change our show to block out the A, and then becoming advocates? What could be more convincing than the people who were staunchly in opposition to religion, the people who were constantly providing good rebuttals, pointing out fallacies in arguments, pointing out objections? If I were God, well, first of all, if I were God, which is the title of the book I'm working on, I think I would probably just
get a winning lottery ticket if he was.
Well, I just reveal myself to people and talk to them directly because, I'm kind of straightforward. But if I had been hiding, as God has apparently been doing, world champion in hide and go seek.
Hide and go seek.
Yeah. If I had been hiding, I think that if I saw this show and saw that it was taking my believers away from me, I might realize that I had made a mistake in hiding, and then I'd come on the show and talk. So, by the way, God has an open invitation to, well, I would say call, but we can't confirm that. So you need to actually appear in person here. But you're welcome. I'll give you the whole show.
There's a guy that has made a couple of comments on the Atheist Experience Facebook page that says he has a 100% success rate at getting people to come to God, and he's praying for Tracy to reconvert. And he said it's definitely going to happen by the end of this year, because we pinned him down and asked for a timeline here. So
I don't make decisions, by the way, about who is or isn't on the show. This isn't my show. This is the Atheist Community of Austin show. I know I'm on all the time. If Tracy converts before the end of the year, I will lobby, and I don't think I'll get too much pushback, that Tracy should stay on the show.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And until we fix that.
Yeah.
And I don't mean fix it as in fix her, but I know Tracy very well. Yeah. I'm unconvinced. I think that if Tracy becomes convinced, there would be good reason for me to pay a lot of attention and have conversations with her.
I would
because
definitely
one of us
want
is
to have
wrong.
that conversation with her.
One of us is wrong, and we have the sort of relationship where those conversations could be productive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, Kyle, don't beat yourself up over it. You don't know anybody an explanation. You don't have to come to a decision. Try to get a little more comfortable with being in a position where you don't know and you're not certain, because I hate to tell you, you're going to be in that position a lot for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, before you leave me go, I'd just like to say thanks to the people that were taking the calls, who in fact let me get on. And Matt, I think you're awesome. Jen, I think you're awesome. And I always watch your debates and everything. So I just want to thank you, because you really have made me more aware and more knowledgeable. So I really appreciate it.
Well, we think you're right. Because I think Jen's awesome too. So you have to be right.
And of course, Matt's awesome.
And so if you're right about one thing, that means you're right, right? This is the response to Ray Comfort when he says have you ever told a lie? That makes you a liar. Okay, have you ever told the truth? Ooh. Boy, that shut him up real quick. But anyway, thanks, Kyle. Have a good day.
Yeah. Thanks a lot. Take care, guys.
Cheers.